Hello, snowboarders of the internet. I am your host Kevin, and I am here for another Angry Snowboarder review, and today we are going to be talking about the Libtech BRD. This board comes in a 159 and a 162 wide. The camber on this is Libtech C3 profile, so it is a camber dominant profile that has a little bit of micro rocker between the feet. The camber still dominates that rocker, so when you lay it down it still has a more or less full camber profile to it, and it still more or less rides like full camber, just with a little bit easier initiation of the side cut between your feet because of that micro rocker zone. I rode this at Breckenridge in kind of early spring conditions, so a little bit slushy out in the snow. It was a little bit later in the day, so anything that had been sun-baked was starting to get pretty soft and pretty mashy. In the shade, it was still pretty firm and still pretty fast, so I was able to get it in a couple kind of different conditions there. So able to test out the kind of varying condition stability as well as how well that edge was going to dig into a little bit harder snow. And I rode this with my K2 Lean ATs and DC Tuck knees in a size 8. The flex on this is your pretty traditional directional flex. So softer nose, stiffening it up underfoot, staying about that same flex between the feet, and then stiffening it up again through the tail. Now, I would like to point out that traditionally when you're going to Libtech and looking at freeride style boards, they usually have a pretty gnarly, aggressive flex to them, and it's usually pretty inaccessible. And that was one of the better things about the BRD, is it didn't stay with that trend. It was a more accessible flex. So if you've ridden some of the other kind of more freeride oriented stuff from Lib, know that the BRD is a little bit softer on that spectrum, but definitely still more of your freeride oriented flex. Stability on this is not that charge it, power through just about anything that's going to be in front of you. It's a little bit more of your lively style board. So you are going to feel some stuff that's coming from underneath you. It has a little bit more flex to it. And for certain styles of riding in certain kind of conditions, that actually kind of can lead to a little bit better stability, because it allows the board to kind of flex and conform over the terrain instead of just trying to push through it and get bounced around a little bit. So it does require a little bit more precision input in order to keep this on its line, but it does a pretty good job, and for the type of board it is and the flex that it is, it works really well and was never something that I felt like I was having issues with the stability. So at speeds, pointing it, it always felt comfortable and under control. The Ollie and Snap out of this board is definitely your kind of classic load it and pop. So you've got to load that camber zone that's kind of underneath each foot and load that center part a little bit that has that kind of medium flex to it, and it's got some decent snap to it. It was never something that amazed me, but it had some good pop to it and was always kind of really what I needed it to be, and was very controllable. And that's honestly, as I age, being 31 years old as I am, I prefer that. I prefer something that's more controllable than it is going to be really surprising to me. So I actually really like the snap out of this. It felt comfortable. It was always as much or just a little bit more than I really needed, and always was what I was looking to get out of it. The butterability on this board, surprisingly, was actually one of the biggest attributes to this board. Now, when I say butterability out of the tail, I'm really more talking about your high speed wheelies, throw your nose up in the air and just lay into the tail. If you're looking at low speed butters, it's average at best, and remember, it is still a directional freeride board. So if you're looking to do those low speed butters, definitely stick more towards the nose. That's where you're going to get the flex out of it. And it is big, it's wide, so it's got a nice surface area to do that with. But by far, I have probably done more like heel side wheelie slashes on this board in one run than any other board I've ever ridden. It just has the perfect flex through the tail for my body weight and style, and the power and technique that I like to use for wheelie slashes, and it just does such a good job of it. So super, super good with that kind of wheelie throw your tail up in the air. The carving on this board is average at best. For the most part, it definitely lends itself more towards your big, long, fast turns. That's really kind of where it's geared. Medium turns come pretty naturally, and your short turns are really where you got to put a little bit more extra effort. You kind of consciously have to center flex the board to really engage that middle part of the side cut. Luckily with C3, that's not that much harder to do. So because it has a little bit micro rocker zone, when you do go to center flex it, it's pretty easy to engage that middle part of the side cut. But to get those really quick, snappy turns, you do have to do that. Laying it all the way over, it works pretty well. It's not the best I've ever ridden to do that with. And there, honestly, even within Libtech's line, some stuff that I like a little bit better to really lay it all the way over with, but it'll get the job done and it will certainly satisfy you. Who is this board for? Really, it's for your all mountain freerider. That dude looking to get some side countries, looking to go fast, but he doesn't want to ride something that's crazy stiff and is going to beat him up by the end of the day. I actually pretty well liked this board. It was certainly the best freeride board I've ridden from Libtech, and part of that is because I feel like most of Lib's boards that are in that freeride category are just too stiff and demanding. The gold member is kind of the only standout outside of this one, and that's partly because it has C2, so you don't have to worry about that more demanding, crazy, aggressive flex to it because it has a rocker between the feet. So if you're more of that camber kind of rider, this is probably the freeride board I'd look at, unless you're looking for something to just go Mach 9 and blast over top of moguls and looking for something you could hit a brick wall with and it's not going to phase it. So other than that, the BRD is probably what I'd really look at for a freeride board from Libtech, and something that I actually had a pretty good time on, and the tail wheelies on this were just awesome. Comparable boards are the Jones Flagship, the K2 Manifest, and the Ride Commissioner. Thanks for watching. This has been my review of the Libtech BRD. What did you think? Have you ridden the Split in the past? Do you feel like the Split ride's similar to the Solid, how I described it? Let's have a conversation about it. While you're doing that, make sure you click subscribe and hit the bell. Make sure you get notifications when these videos are coming out. And if you want to support us, the best way to do that is to check out Angry Snowboarder VIP. I could tell a little bit more about it, but we've got a fancy video, so check that out. Come back for the next video.